Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Influencers Project. I'm your host, Craig Reynolds, and with me today is one of the most legendary BMX riders in the history of the sport, Mr. Rick Moliterno. Rick, how are you today?
I'm very well. It's nice to see you.
It is so good to see you. It has been decades since I've seen you, talked to you, anything. It has been a very long time.
That's it seems odd too, because I don't know how that could happen. I guess we all get busy and do our things in life,
Totally.
If both people stay busy, you don't contact, but hey, what's up, man? Social media, we get to see what each other's doing. So
yes.
You almost feel like you haven't lost touch.
That is the one thing that I do like about social media, is that I can stay in contact with my people.
Yep.
Otherwise, I don't see anybody. And as many times as I've wanted to erase all social media, especially during a political year, I want to just get rid of all of it, but I'm like, I can't, because I can't stay in contact with anybody.
Yeah.
And that's important to me.
I agree. That's the positive I love about social media too. I just ignore all the negatives out there, like all the political stuff and all the rants and all the crap that goes on. Yeah. I just roll right by it not affecting me.
Right, exactly.
There's some good stuff. There's somebody I know. I like that.
Right, exactly. And I love that. That keeps me coming back. It's like hitting one good golf shot. Like, I did it. I can do it again next round.
I golf as well, and I'm the same way.
Yes.
One shot, you're back again.
That's it. That's all it takes.
It can erase 100 bad ones.
And it usually does, right?
Yep.
So speaking of coming back and having fun and enjoying things, way back in the day, and I just told you about this a minute ago, we were at a race. I think it was in Moline. Was it Moline or Quad Cities?
Rock Island Indoor.
Indoor asphalt, right? And there was some big Can-Am race. It was what it was.
I remember the Can-Am Challenge races.
Yes, that was it. It was like you, Jay Hamby, Todd Blazer, couple other guys too. And I thought, oh, Todd or Jay is gonna win this, no problem. And you crushed them, And you might have been in jeans, if I remember correctly.
Probably.
Right? And I was like, how did he just beat these dudes? Like, Rick's freestyle. Like, he's a freestyle guy. Like, what's he doing? So that to me was, I will never forget that, because it was big and it was huge, and it made me realize what a well-rounded rider you were and are, which I think gets overshadowed, is your ability to do everything, right? Was that a conscious decision? Or did you want to do everything, or did it just happen?
I don't know if I ever made a decision to ride all the aspects of riding. I think at the time I got into BMX, you just did that. You'd race once or twice a week, and I'm talking like 79, 78, 1980, right in there. You'd race once a week or whatever. But when you weren't on the track, you were jumping, you were building trails, not like today's trails, but those days' trails.
Yes.
Riding wheelies down the street, doing curb endos, doing crap on your bike, and you just did a little bit of everything naturally.
Right.
And then once freestyle came out, it was like, whoa, this is its own thing. And so you get well, I kind of already do some of that stuff, and I still do all this stuff for racing. And it just kind of stayed together that way. I always kind of just did it because it felt right.
Okay. So
no decision was made.
No, you just wanted to ride. You were just riding, right?
Yeah.
Without any kind of labels or titles.
Exactly.
Right. So let's fast forward a little bit. If you've been riding and racing and freestyling and everything, how did the whole Haro thing come about? Because that was for me, the first time I saw you on a different level outside of the whole racing part.
So are you asking about how I ended up riding for Haro?
Yeah.
Okay, so here.
And I know we're going to jump over stuff, but we're going to come back.
Yep.
That was a big piece.
I'll rewind a slight amount to get to that part.
Cool.
Okay, so in or around 1983 or 84, the GT tour came through at Byke and Ike, the shop that I worked at for years. And Ron Wilkerson and Rich Avella were cool as can be, as always, and invited me to go with them for a couple of weeks. And my boss let me off, and I went. And I got to experience what life on the road is like, a little tiny window.
Sure.
And at one of the hotels one night, Ron Wilkerson was like, "Don't tell anybody, but I'm leaving GT. I'd either sign a deal with Haro or I'm signing a deal with Haro. I'm moving to Haro." I'm like, "No way," cool, whatever. I get back from that tour. I meet Woody Itzen a month later, and him and Donovan Ritter came and did a show in our area. and they hung out for a few days. They had a few days off. So I got to know them on that level. And then Woody got Hutch to send me a frame, no strings attached, whatever. Just here you go. And I'm like, whoa.
What a nice guy. What a great guy too, right?
Mind blown, you know?
Yeah.
And so like a little bit more time goes by and they needed somebody to go on tour for a couple weeks on Hutch.
Whoa.
I'm like, whoa, like, I guess I am on the team. I'm touring. This is great.
Yeah.
So I'm on Hutch. That went along its path. And then Hutch had its demise. And I went to one event. Rockville BMX helped me go to this one event in Nassau Island, and I did really well. I stayed with the Haro guys, which I probably should have went back to. The day Hutch called me, Haro called me an hour later to ride for them. And I was like, oh no, I already accepted Hutch, but I liked Hutch, so it wasn't like I missed out.
Sure.
And then 1 year later, I ended up on Haro anyway, so I got to experience both. So anyway, it just kind of happened that Hutch had its demise. I went to Haro, and then I rode for them until starting standard.
So when you were on Haro, did they already have their frames, or was that pre-frames, or were you riding something different?
Did Haro have their frames?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the Master and the Sport.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure if you were on there before those kicked in.
No, I got on there at the end of 1986.
Okay. And was Bob still involved with everything
Bob
too?
was
Was he
still
riding?
involved. Yes, and if Bob would have stayed involved, I probably would have tried to stay on Haro my whole life, and there'd be no standard.
Oh, really?
And it's not a negative against anyone else, but he influenced me that much.
See, this is what we're talking about.
I can learn a lot from this guy. And
Sure.
He's so good to us, and he was so good in so many ways to us, and for the sport, and that kind of, when he left, it left a void, and it left us all to figure out what we really wanted to do without him being kind of like the leader and influencer on us.
Yeah, I mean, what a good guy. I mean, not only from his creative side and design, but starting a company, like, that was pretty forward thinking, and I think he's always been that way. Did you look to him, or who were the guys that you looked at as far as on the freestyle side of things that you were like, I love their riding style, and you yourself have your own riding style, very creative and it's almost like a powerful style, because you're a big dude, you're a big strong guy, so you'd ride, you'd tear stuff up and like finesse it, but it was like you control it. Who was your influence as far as a riding style that you looked at and you're like, I love that, that was awesome?
It's funny because like all the dudes that I looked up to were kind of finesse dudes, like super smooth, like on ramps, like a Brian Blythe or a Mike Dominguez. They're very smooth, very good. Dennis McCoy, Woody Itzen, Ron Wilkerson. Ron wasn't really a finesse guy, but I liked his wildness. Like, you never know what you're going to get out of him, like he's going to do something that's going to be great,
Yeah.
So in freestyle, those guys. And then I think I brought on a little more of that directness, and it came from a flatlander, this guy, Chris Day. He made me put like more power back into it or something, as you would say. And those are the main dudes that come to mind. Like, there's always a lot, you always get a little bit influenced by everything you see.
Sure.
But those guys, 20 something years later, they still stick in my head as, I remember why and who, where this comes from, what my riding gained from them, things like that. So
when you're on Haro, is this the same time that you're in Rad as well?
No, Rad precedes Haro. I was on a Hutch in Rad. So Rad was filmed in 1985. And I'm on a Hutch in 1985. That's the year, I don't know if I went on that little bit of touring in 84, 85. I should have kept notes all these years, man.
Only person that knows year by year is Todd Lyons. Yeah, I cannot, for the life of me.
I see that on social media. What's up, Todd?
I can't remember a year to save my life, but I can remember the events. I can remember the things, but I can't tell you if it happened in 87 or 97.
Exactly. Like, I kind of know, but not really exactly.
It's fuzzy.
So someone from Hutch calls me and asks me if I want to go do this movie. And I'm like, sure. I'm free. And that's what I went to do. And that's how I took my first plane flight ever in my life at 20 years old. Hutch,
come on.
To do Rad.
No. One of the most iconic BMX movies of all time. Yeah, I'll go do it. Sure.
Yeah, Well, no one knew it was going to be that,
Of course not, right. So what was that experience like? What did you take away from that?
It was interesting. It was really fun and interesting up until the movie was released.
Really?
Yeah, well, we thought it was going to be a little more hardcore looking and stuff.
Oh,
That's
really?
me and my friends, we're like, man, this is going to be great. Lots of riding. And then we were like, oh, it's a cheese ball. We were kind of embarrassed. But then for a long time, I was like, F that movie. And then I softened over time because it did get a lot of people into BMX.
Yeah, no
And
doubt.
so it did do some good. And I was like, okay, I'm going to lighten up. It's a positive thing.
I mean, it's still to this day. They just re-released it on like 4K or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
get
sure.
buddies that have never seen it and they'll screenshot my little bit in there and send it to me. I'm like, I just start laughing. Years ago, and I've been like, get out of here.
Yeah, don't say that to me ever again, right?
Exactly.
No, yeah, it's incredible how things over time become something totally different. Because when I first saw it, I was like, whatever. Dude just jumped out of a cereal bowl. What the hell is that all about?
Exactly. Like, that's not realistic.
Right, and now it's just entertaining as hell. You're just like, okay, that's fantastic. It's so much fun.
Same.
What was it like going down the hill for you?
I never got to go down the hill because I got the cast on my ankle before we all did that.
That's right.
So
how did that happen?
I did all the other stuff, but I never got to do that stuff up on that area.
Sure.
Because they filmed it in sections. They did it and then pieced it together later.
Right.
So I just did not ever get to go down that thing.
I forgot that happened. How did you hurt your ankle?
We were jumping these like mogul things. We were trying to jump all of them, and they were just freshly built. And we had one with a good little lip in it, and then someone else built another one. And I was like, hey, is that one ready to go? And yeah, it is. And I went hammering at it, and it was a little soft for my speed.
Oh.
You know how you put your foot out when something throws you weird? And my foot landed on the side of one of those little molehill things.
Yep.
And it tweaked a ligament.
Yeah.
So I had to have a cast. The cast was on for 13 days, and it fell off from riding with it. My doctor back in Iowa was like, yeah, this sounds like you.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I cut a cast off my arm before. I get it. Same deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, yeah, why not? So we're in Haro. We've already gone through Ride or Red. What possessed you to start Standard? Let's go there. I mean.
So this is tough because as Haro, after Bob left, as things went on, Haro felt a little stagnant. Tours were fun. The dudes on the team were cool. The people in the house, though, were not wanting to change anything or go with the times. Like Bob would always listen to us, would make changes, always had something new cooking. And that stopped. And we were starting to ride street and skate parks, and our bikes were just getting demolished in a week.
Ooh.
Like calling Haro. Like I would always call and check in anyway. It's part of what's going on. What do we got going? Hey,
sure.
Keep in touch. And the bikes weren't changing, and I was like, we got to change these right now, or we're not going to have a good future. And I always thought of us as we.
Sure.
By that time, I was like the old senior pro of the team, and I was like, I don't know how old I was, 25 or something.
Yeah, you're the crotchety old man.
Yeah. Mid-20s, Oh. But I was like, hey, I've got all these ideas for upgrading things and getting some new team guys that are into street and skate parks and a little more of where things are going. The show era was kind of fading away. Mm-hmm. And that show style of contest like the AFA did and all that you could feel that time passing right then.
Sure.
And when I brought it up to Haro and they did not want to do any of that. I've told the story many times, and I offered to help with all that. And they're like, well, that sounds great. I'm like, well, is there any way you would, bring me on board in that capacity and work on compensate me in some way for helping out with all this, we can get creative. I'm open to it. I was running my skate park at the time.
Yeah.
And they said, no, absolutely not. So they wanted all the, I don't want to put words in their mouth. From where I sat, they wanted all the benefits and work to be put in for them, but with nothing giving back.
Right.
It's okay. Well, we'd always been kicking around the idea loosely around the skate park, like, oh, let's start our own company. Boom, boom, boom. Be up high in the sky. You're staying on Haro. You're never starting anything, And all of a sudden that happened, and it sparked something in me. It's like the chip on the shoulder thing we were talking about earlier. I was like, man, they just are not paying attention to what's going on. I'm going to find out how to do this and try this, and got together with Kurt Schmidt and Bill Nitschke, and we put our heads together and just hit the ground running, and we just wung it.
That is awesome. Who made your first bikes?
What's that?
Who made the first frames?
A company called Southwick Machine and Design. They're local here, Kelowna, Illinois, and the guy's name was Bob Southwick. Prototyped up the first 8 or 9 for us. Wow. And then years later, when I went in-house, his son came to work for me and got the shop running and up off the ground.
Really?
Short-term help out, the biggest help out ever. And, and then he went back to his dad's shop. But so isn't that crazy that his dad made our first prototypes, and then he came and got our in-house operation going?
That is amazing.
So that family has been a huge, huge help and influence to the standard over the years as well.
That's incredible. And with everything being in-house, well, I always do this. Let's go back a second. You were getting things done at Waterford, right? For a while?
Oh, yeah. And at that time, that was a great find.
Waterford.
Well, Schwinn went bankrupt, or however it went. I don't want to put facts out there that I'm not 100% sure of, but just from what I was told, Schwinn had its ending. And then Richard Schwinn and Mark Muller, who was an engineer for Schwinn, and then a big shop owner, this guy named George, they all went in and bought Waterford. And it was right when I needed a frame maker. And Marco from Props knew about that and put us together. And I went there basically the first week they had the deal done. And they're like, heck yes. And I'm like, heck yes. And that was a humongous change. Huge. We went from struggling with this little local machine shop who did their best, but making bikes is hard unless, it's hard even if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And, we switched to Waterford all in, and that was a great thing. Like they took so many steps and so many chances to feed us, to help us go. And we had our wars, but that's because we all cared, Like
that's when, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They were awesome. Like they guided us they made our stuff from like 93 to 2007 till we went in house. We actually bought a lot of our equipment from them.
Cool.
They had a hand in, like we have some things here with Schwinn brass tags on them, some machinery.
Get out of here.
From like to show that it was Schwinn when it was Schwinn owned ownership, which is really cool as character,
That's it's huge. Because Waterford is where they made all the performance line of Schwinn bikes, right? They have the Paramount bikes. Yes.
The Paramount factory. That's what Waterford became. Like it was a factory within Schwinn for all that high performance goody. They made all the Schwinn things and all that in there. And Mark Muller, the guy that worked with me as an engineer, he helped develop the Sting. So he knew BMX as well, enough to help standard along.
That is so cool.
I don't know if you remember those flared seat tubes we used early. They were directly off of the Sting. They were
really
off the parts bin for the first prototypes and everything. And the tapered chain stays and stuff came off the Sting.
No way.
Yeah.
I love that bike. It was too big for me when I was little. I had a Schwinn Scrambler, and then I went to the GMC.
Yeah.
But
and
dude,
I don't know how much older than you I am, but when the Sting was in its prime, it was too small for me.
Was it?
Yeah, a little too small. I was only like 5'9" or 5'10" then. Like I hadn't gone to my current height, but like I was already starting to look for longer stuff,
Yes.
Yeah.
So was that part of your initiative or reasons why you wanted to start standard, because you needed something that was going to fit your style and the styles that you saw coming?
Mostly the strength.
Street and length?
Mostly the strength. The strength issue.
Got it. Yeah.
Like, all the bikes were relative to today's standards. Kids have it so good now. Even if it's made overseas, it's way better than it was then as far as being built for what their current riding is.
Mm-hmm.
Like mostly strength. The stuff was just not lasting. Like I remember a couple of times I'd put new parts on my bike or put a new bike together, and that part would break the first day. I was like, man, because you know how you get a good session on and you don't want it to end? It would end your session. You don't have another one sitting there like, I do not want these sessions to end for myself or anyone else. What can I do, take it upon my back to try to improve that?
Right. And then, so going to Waterford, obviously hugely instrumental. with that. Did they have ways to test the product as you were getting it designed and built?
Waterford did have some in-house testing, but as far as the frame and forks were concerned, Mark Muller and Waterford had a relationship with Buell Motorcycles, and they had a frame testing machine that would test the frames. I never got to witness how it worked, but any opportunity we had, he's like, "You want me to take this over to Buell?" I'm like, "Yeah," you know.
Yes, every time.
Yeah, and so that was cool. But we had such a diverse and gnarly team that, hey guys, we're trying this new stuff. We hand it out, you know, and some stuff didn't work, and some stuff, of course, did. And we did, so we had real world and scientific testing to do with it. And then over the years, we just refine. But if something seems a little out there, it always goes to the team guys, you know.
Right. Do you do any? So instead of having like the Buell frame testing machine, you have your riders that test them out.
Yes.
Which
because real world is what matters anyway. Like there's a lot of things that work on paper, but don't work in the real world. And so many things can happen out there with all the riding styles and body types and whatever you want to include.
Sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of real world, the first time I went to Waterford and met Richard Schwinn,
oh boy,
I was the little kid again. I was the little kid going, I'm sitting across the desk from Richard Schwinn, and then he piped up and goes, "So Craig, how's BMX going?" And I was like, "You know who I am?" No, not a chance. Blew my mind. What was that like working with him, knowing his history and the family history?
It was crazy, you know, and as you found out, he's a big, imposing guy with a big booming voice.
Yes.
And even like the engineer, Mark Muller, he's bigger than Richard. Like he's a big guy, but more of a gentle giant. But most of my dealings weren't really with Richard except for the business side. They were all with the engineer and the shop manager and then the shop foreman and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like mostly with Richard, it was like business talk, like pricing and production and things like that. And a lot of that came later because he had people in there to take care of the business side because we were such a big part of their business for many years.
Yeah.
Almost like awesome. he had to delegate, you know, because he was taking care of Waterford and Gunner and then doing some other things on that side.
That's why I went up there so I could get a Gunner frame made.
Yeah, TIG welded.
I needed a road bike. Yeah, I needed a road bike. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was like a paperweight. It was so light. It was ridiculous. Like unbelievable. Chromoly, fantastic frame.
Yes.
Are they still up there making frames? Are they still there?
I believe so. We're so busy with our own, I don't get to check out and check in as much. Sure. Just like, look how long it's been since we talked. It's the same thing, like nothing negative. We don't have negativity, but it's like, man, I'm busy.
Dude, I had a kid 6 years ago. Watch out. Nothing has existed since then. Yeah. Like, that's it. That's all I got. Yeah. So I get it. So you're still riding. I see you posting up stuff on Instagram and the social medias. Still lip tricks galore, doing everything that I see you do. How has your style changed over the years?
Well, in the recent years, as the body ages.
That's what I mean. You told me when you had to go for a walk every morning. I'm like, that's what I do. You got to loosen it up, dude. You got to loosen up.
I've had to put more effort into staying fit rather than only relying on BMX, even though BMX is an overall workout that not much can replace. I've just had to change it up because, most of life, you ride so much and naturally stay fit. You don't have to work at it. Right. I eat healthy, I work at it, and I ride, and I keep my mind thinking positive as much as I can. And
nice.
Like, I feel like I'm in the best place I've ever been in.
So, which is awesome. I mean, you sound great. You sound great. I remember in the past we would talk and the conversations are much shorter and quicker. Like, it's such a treat to have you here and talk. You're almost like an enigma. It's hard to get a hold of you. And I know people have tried. You even told me, like, I've turned everyone down, but I'll do this one. And I'm like, yes.
And I don't mean to turn them down. Like, sometimes it's bad timing.
Yeah. Oh, well, this was 2 weeks in the makings too, right? We were going to do this a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Life got in the way. You had to go camping.
Yes.
I get it. Which is awesome. Do you still have the skate park too?
I do not. We closed Rampage in 2005. I helped with getting our concrete park open the whole way along, and then saw it end up being open. And our lease, we always leased that building, that little space we were in. And once the concrete park was coming to life and was looking great, I decided to not renew because I was like, I would like to choose to close rather than financially lose my shorts and be forced to close. it was already hard enough to make a skate park exist. You know, you had to get real creative and come up with new things all the time, change the park up. You really had to work at it. And I didn't want, no matter what I did, to be a dead end, you know?
Right.
So I just chose to, and it turned out to be a good thing. We had our retail store that remained open until 2013, and Standard being in-house made that be a decision that had to be made too.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And that was becoming a little bit more of a challenge with all the internet sales becoming a real thing, which anything in BMX or skateboarding is always a real challenge because you have to be on top of it 24/7. You have to change immediately with the times.
Right.
You know?
Well, how has Standard changed over the years? Where did you see it come from, and where it's at now, and where do you think it's going?
I would just think we have changed to become more diverse, and our current day Standard, I feel like instead of having shelves full of the same bike in the same size and 2 colors, we've become a company that's almost build to order.
Cool.
So most dudes can kind of pretty much get what they want if they're willing to wait for it. Like our next hurdle to learn about and adapt to is the wait time. You know, some people are waiting 30 weeks, and it sounds like a long time, but the line is that long, the demand is that long, and hiring another frame builder to come in and make that go a little faster. It's not that simple. They don't grow on trees, and they would have to move here. And
right,
it's a skill that has to be acquired, you know. And a lot of guys want to do it in their own environment, and that's understandable.
Right.
So, and then we're also not going to sacrifice the finished product just to hurry it up because it takes what it takes. Every frame takes the time it takes. So that's the thing that's changed, I guess, is we're offering more individualized finished product than we ever have. And that increases our lead time because each one takes a little longer to build. You're not building a rack of 20 or 2 racks of 20 all the same. Right. So you don't have the benefit of one setup for 40 frames. You have one setup per frame. Sure. Or 5 setups and a drawing. And maybe we got to make sure this all fits up. Oh, didn't work. Let's stick another rear end up. There's a lot involved. So it does move a little slower, you know. Right. But that's our next hurdle. That's our next thing moving forward is to erase that situation. And we will. It's a BMXer thing. Think about when you race, every new track you go to, you have to adapt right now. You got to figure that track out right now or the others are gonna, and you're not going to make it.
Exactly. It was a race to figure it out. Yes. Yeah. A race within the race, right?
And then you guys would watch the guys that figured it out first and try it their way if you hadn't figured it out yet. You know, it's just how we all do it.
Uh-huh. Yes. So was there ever a time that you thought about going to Taiwan or going to China and getting your bikes done?
Absolutely not. I will quit first.
That's what happened to Reynolds Racing.
I understand too. Mm-hmm. We talked about that because you joined Standard after that fact. And
yes,
we talked about it quite a bit. I was always bothered by the fact that you had to put that away.
Yeah.
Not bothered against you, bothered because I was a fan, you know?
It hurt my heart, dude. Still does to a degree.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I was like, that was a good thing that went away, you know?
I still get a lot of good compliments about the whole process. I mean,
yeah,
that was a good time.
Yeah, and you will always get those compliments, you know, so.
Right.
Enjoy.
So we did something right. We did something right. I'll hang my head on that, right?
Yes.
With that being said, with not wanting to go overseas, what are some of the challenges you face other than timing wise? Was there ever a time when it was hard to get chromoly and metal for the product? Because I know we run into a shortage at one point as far as metal goes.
We've never had a shortage. We would have delivery problems with True Temper. Timely deliveries, or they'd over deliver a product and under deliver another, so it wasn't matched up. Yeah. That was a real struggle when we went in house. That was very difficult, but we're past that. We found other solutions, and like we were always going to do, and we just moved forward, you know, and overcame it.
Nice. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time because I know you're a busy man. And I greatly appreciate your time today. But what do you think Standard's going to be in the next couple of years? What do you want to see?
More of the same, more goodness. Give people what they want, and have it be reliable. It's still a key thing for it to be reliable.
Excellent.
A good value, reliable. You give you what you want.
Right. even if it costs a little bit more. To me, I think the trade-off is you pay for what you get, right?
Yeah. I wish it could cost even more. Just 'cause it would make existing better. Like, I'm not a money-based guy. I don't chase the dollars. It would just, the bike industry is difficult. And if our margins could be even better, it would help us do more and help us do more to put back as well.
Right. Well, I think if you look at mountain bikes or road bikes and the composite materials they use, and they charge 10 grand for a product, I don't think just because our bikes are chromoly, that's a lesser of a material. You know what I mean?
It's not. If chromoly was the new thing, it would be the genius space age material. It's just been around so long that people overlook it.
Right. Exactly. Well, Rick, I greatly appreciate your friendship, your support, and your time today. It was always a pleasure as a young guy to watch you go from winning races to hitting a vert ramp to doing a cherry picker or something on a or on a spine. It was so cool and so fascinating, and I'm so glad that we had a chance to catch up today. So thank you for your time.
Thank you too. It's always great to talk to you, even if it is many years apart.
Hey, dude, I think at least since 2004 when I retired, man, I cleared out of the whole sport. If someone wants to get a hold of you or wants to get a frame or a bike, how do they do that?
Info at standardbike.com.
Okay. Everything is info.
BYKE.
Yeah, that's the thing. That'll trick people, right, though?
Yep.
I'm sure they spell it incorrectly.
Exactly. I think somebody squats on that, so we can't even get it to direct them.
So you said info at standardbikes.com, and it's spelled BYKE.
No S, standardbike.com.
Standardbike.com. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, Rick, enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully it won't start snowing there anytime soon. If you ever decide you need to get out of there, I'm telling you, North Carolina is not a bad place to land.
Right on, man.
Excellent. Now, if you guys like what you're seeing, please make sure you subscribe on YouTube. And if you really like to hear when you're driving or just walking around, go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe there. Rick, enjoy the rest of your day, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Right on. Thanks, Craig.